Hi, I'm Sandy Watson from Peeriscopia and welcome to another Consumer Perspective tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to look at consumer clearinghouses. These are very important if you're wanting to start to explore consumer lived experience, knowledge and expertise. Then a really good place to start is to look at a consumer clearinghouse. What is a consumer clearinghouse? It is an online website that stores information that is of relevance to people with lived experience of mental distress. Today we're going to look at the clearinghouse that's well known in Australia, and that is called OurConsumerPlace. And all you need to do is type in OurConsumerPlace and that brings you to their index page. You'll see there's quite a number of menus on the pink and green line. Today what we're going to look at is the Manifesto and Resources section. This is located in Victoria. It's a resource centre for mental health consumers, and this is a really good place to start for anybody interested in finding out about consumer perspectives. Let's look at the Manifesto. This brings up a set of principles, I think, that can be really useful for discussion if you're really not familiar with consumer perspective thinking. Then I reckon this is a good place to start. And you can see there's 10 principles for what we believe, there are 8 principles for what we do, and there are 4 principles for how we work. So let's look at just a couple here, and you can come and have a look for yourself and think about how this could be useful to you. Number 6, what we believe, nothing about us without us. And that's really fundamental to the entire mental health consumer and survivor movement, that nothing about us without us, that we're not on the receiving end of decisions that we've had no say in and no part in. Number 9, nobody can empower us. People and institutions can, however, stop disempowering us. And I think that's a really interesting principle. So many times people will claim that they empowered their clients, and really the assumptions are that the clinician or whoever had the power. There's no reflection on what the person has done themselves for their own empowerment. So I think this is a really core principle, that you can't claim someone else's empowerment as your own. So how about stop disempowering us, and then we can have a talk about empowerment. So let's go back and have a look. I want to look at the resources section, because this is the part of the website where OurConsumerPlace has created an extensive range of resources for you, for mental health services, for clinicians, for managers, for carers. Primarily this is aimed for consumers who are wanting to provide services or wanting to think about how to go about providing and thinking about consumer perspective issues. So let's look here. And you can see we've got OurConsumerPlace resources. There are help sheets, presentations, cartoons by Miranda Epstein, interviews with international consumer survivor leaders, and so on. I want to take you now to what I think is the beating heart of the website, our major publications. So we have a Consumer's Guide to Mental Illness Interventions, a historical view. So if you're wanting to think about the history of interventions in treating people with so-called mental illness, there's a great resource for you to get started. Pluck, Acceptance, Defiance and Fortitude, Telling Mental Illness Stories to Change the World. So thinking about how our stories can be transformational for others. And I think that title, Pluck, Acceptance, Defiance and Fortitude, represents a tapestry of all the different ways that we come to understanding our experiences and wanting to change the world. So some of us will accept that we have mental illness as a diagnosis that makes sense for us. Others will defy that and stand up against it. I'd like to just point you to the Mad Quarry Dictionary 2013, A Consumer's Guide to the Language of Mental Health. So let's just quickly look at that. You can download it, and this is really useful. So we have here diagnosis in the little square there. D for damaged and desperate. I for insufficient help available, leaving. A for anxiety and anger. G for get me out of here. N for non-compliant. O for out of control. S for sacred and self-harm. I for inability to cope, understand and misled. S for sense of hopelessness for the future. That gives you an immediate sense that this is really a consumer perspectives website, that definitions and terminologies used in the mental health system, and not only the mental health system, but more broadly than that, have a meaning to consumers that may not be how these terms are understood. So you'll find this very interesting to have a look at this. High bed turnover here, tipping the beds over to throw us out the door so that we can, mental health services can achieve their objectives of getting people through their doors and out the door as quickly as possible. So lovely cartoons. Consumer Movement in Australia, a memoir by Mirinda Epstein. I highly recommend MAD meetings. This is very useful if you're wanting to be a consumer representative. So what I love about that is it has a really good section on consumer perspectives and what it means when you're going on a committee, what it actually means to bring a consumer perspective. So it has a list of principles that I think everybody coming to committees with a consumer perspective needs to have with them. But also I think it's just as useful for managers. So anybody who's recruiting consumers to meetings as representatives ought to read MAD meetings and have an understanding that you're not just bringing people who are yes people onto your committee, that you actually do understand that what you're purchasing the services of somebody coming from a consumer perspective, and that's a practice in and of itself. So highly recommend that. So you can have a look at cartoons. I'm just scrolling down into interviews with international consumer and survivor leaders. So there's a list of people that have been interviewed. These are all well-known names in the mental health consumer movement. So I highly recommend that you have an explore. And this is what a clearinghouse is. It provides a meeting point for you online to be able to explore broader knowledge. And so a lot of these are international speaker. Well, it is international. So it gives you a chance to think about what's happening around the world, what other people around the world are trying to do, what their thinking is. So if you look at somebody like Tina Minkowitz, she was instrumental in getting the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities up and really ensuring as many protections as possible for people with diagnoses of mental illness. Australia hasn't performed that well on that, but anyway, she tried. Here's some stuff on golden consumer research. So you can just download these. Here's the links here so you can have a look and just download these documents, and you can see the cover page. Thank you. Please subscribe. Subscribing on YouTube is free. It just draws more attention and that helps promote this video at no cost to you. Thank you very much, and if you would like to contact me at Peeriscopia, if you're wanting training or anything that I might be able to provide, please email me at peeriscopia@gmail.com. Thank you.